All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Anohana, episode 11.
All right, guys. This is the finale of the show. Yep. I am so glad that we've come on this journey together, and yet I am dreading this episode. Because it will end, and it will have also probably a full 23-minute runtime, which means there is going to be a lot of ups and downs, and then a lot of just leakage.
Because it's like, okay, with what happened, how is there a full episode? Oh, okay, well, Menma didn't actually disappear.
That wasn't her wish.
Because that wasn't her wish.
That's not the reason why she's here.
Even though it was a very emotional moment and everything. Yeah.
We've been given all the clues. I think this is basically like something where I think I've got a handle on what's going to happen here. And it's just a question of really how are the characters going to come together or not.
And do you think you know what the wish is?
The wish exactly? I think it was basically to help Jinta in some way with the fact that his mother passed away.
Gotcha.
And it was something along those lines that only the group of them together could do. And other than that, I don't really have a clue.
Okay.
I don't really have a clue. I feel like it's something that goes beyond the simple character crushes and things like that. It's more fundamental regarding the fact that he is hurting at that time, or past tense. He was hurting at the time because he lost his mother, and things got kind of derailed probably because it was awkward to initiate it. Probably because Jinta, being the leader of the group in that kind of sense, he would be the one to naturally lead these kinds of things. But so then someone needed to take the reins in that regard, and Menma probably needed help with that, hence getting the group there. But we'll find out in this episode. So y'all, without further ado, let's get into it. Oh, yeah, parents, yeah. Yeah, told you they would have driven him there. Yeah. Oh, they came to pick him up. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, the little eye wobble. Not because you couldn't let her go. Okay.
メンマの本当の願いじゃなかったから。私たち本当にメンマのこと考えてた。自分のことしか考えてなかった。メンマのこと考え続ける人。見てたくなかったから。
Oh.
メンマが好きだ。あの頃から時間が経ったってびっくりするぐらい少しも変わらずに好きだ。
Look at all these people.
Yep.
Look at this honesty, sharing with each other. This is so good. Oh, she's weak. It's discolored. Oh.
絶対にしたくなかった。
骨隠すのやめなよ。雪圧に言いたいことある。
おい。
Yeah.
こないだと同じよ。インターにメンマの気持ち確かめて。
Oh, that was it. That was it.
私はメンマのことでなんでばっかで。
Wow.
でもあんただって同じなんだから。羨ましくなってない。だって最初からメンマになって叶わないって分かってたもの。昔からずっと羨ましかったのはあなたよ、アナル。
Yeah. Yep.
シンタンの気持ち確かめようとしてるって。
メンマ知ってたのか。
Oh no.
なんでメンマは何も言わなかったんだよ。
メンマはジンタンだけじゃなくてみんなが大好きだからな。
やっと私が
Okay.
雪圧の理解者になれて。
So now you've just been keeping it like that. Oh, Sunako.
やっぱり無理だったんだ。こんな気持ちで。
God, and throughout this all, Popo's suffering in silence over there.
よっぽどいいじゃねえかよ。
Oh,
Oh, that's right.
oh, oh.
That's right. I was totally wrong last episode. Yep.
So I had to run. Yeah, but yeah, you can. Yeah. Yeah, we get it, buddy. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Oh. It's so good that they're doing this. You gotta process this out with everyone, each other here.
ジンタが超平和バスターズのみんなと一緒にいたよ。
え？まつげ2つある。
有機物やっぱアナル目元変わったって思ったんだよね。
アナルはそのまんまでいい。
Oh my God.
もうありがとう。でも
Yeah.
メンマは違うんだ。
Yeah, it's your turn, Jinta. Yeah.
成仏なんてしなければいいって思ってた。みんなとちゃんと喋りたい。
Yeah.
だから成仏して生まれ変わりたいって。
もう一度。
そうだよ。メンマ抜きで話したって意味ない。だって私たち6人で。
Right. The 6 of us. All of us. Yeah. Wow.
頼むぜ。リーダー。
メンマ思い出したの。ジンタンのおばさんとお約束したこと。
ジンタは泣かないの。
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't gonna be like that. We know. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I gotta get you to everyone else. Yeah. Yeah, it's not just me. Oh, you're gonna run that whole way, man?
Yeah.
This is why you all go as a group and go together, because he's not gonna make it, right? He's not gonna make it. No! He can't see her anymore?
早く出てこいよ。
Oh, he did it! He let her go! He did!
ちょっとジンタ。
どうしたんだよ。メンマ。かくれんぼってなんだよ。
Oh, wait, he can hear her. Okay.
メンマ。かくれんぼしてんのか。
Please, the journal. Something. Oh, it's Piero. Jesus.
お別れしなきゃ。
Come on, write something, please. Okay, good.
ちょっと。
何あれ。
Oh. Oh, perfect. Yes. Okay. You just see how, like, staggered all the text was with all of them? Like, it was barely, like, illegible. Oh, they all heard it? Oi, sir! Right. Okay, yeah. Right, exactly. Come on, Jinta, yeah. Thank you for her. Ugh. And then the new flower growing, yeah. But there were, like 6 of them, I think. Yeah, now let's show a little bit of where everyone's going and where everyone's at. Her cut hair. Yeah. He's wearing the clip. Yeah. Oh, nice. Her last thing that she put in. Oh. Wow. Oh. Whoa. I've watched like 3 things in my life, including this, that are like this gut-wrenching at the end. And yet I feel so happy.
I know, right?
Almost all the other ones, it's a truly sad ending, right?
Right, but this is happy tears.
This is happy tears. All right, I gotta make sure I get this song. Get my Kleenex here. Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
God, you love things that like just end like an end, you know, like.
Yep.
Oh.
All right.
This was
So
this was not exactly what I thought it was gonna be. It was better, and there was parts of it that did correlate, but then other parts that basically just brought it back to the simplistic bit of, no, like you guys need to move on. You guys need to guys need to be free. You guys need to be able to grow up and be people, and then once you've found yourselves in this, you know, situation and stuff, you can then give a proper goodbye to her. That's basically it. There's all the other stuff of, people liked each other. Yeah, his mom did want to, you know, have some way of basically finding a way to help him cope with that as well. She did end up, you know, wanting to, you know, help him, you know, be okay and stuff like that. And it was just as simple as that he needs to cry and stuff. And it's like, oh, that's perfect. That's what this show is designed to make you do. So. Of course, that's basically what the wish in that respect boils down to. But then it's, no, I'm here because you guys all need this. You guys all need to be able to let go and process all this emotion and pain and stuff. And God, the fact that Popo was saved all the way until the end here.
And I feel so bad about telling you that in the last episode, because it'd been a while since I'd, you know, seen this show, and I forgot whether that was it or whether it was actually brought up in the previous episode, because I didn't want to go rewatching the last episode and have it memorized, you know. like before we got to it.
Because it's like, it's been a while since you've seen it. But,
right, yeah.
Oh, wait, no. You watched it again recently, didn't you?
Like about 6 months ago or 5 months ago. Yeah,
that's relatively
that's fairly recent. Yeah. Yeah, but
for a 2011 show at least.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. But oh man,
oh my god.
But like this show, and thank you for picking this show to watch, because there are a lot of stories out there that make me cry, right? Or that just make me emotional in general and have made me cry. But when I remember when I first watched this show, this was the first time that something really made me happy cry. Right? Yeah. And there's the times where it's like, oh, you get kind of misty-eyed because something's happy, but really bawling you're happy, because you're happy, right?
And it's also painful.
Right, exactly. And I feel like that's probably my favorite part about this show, as far as like how I would differentiate it from a bunch of other anime that are really sad, emotional, etc. Right. Because I feel like that's because who can't relate, even if it's not to the we lost a friend when we were kids, but having something that we don't want to deal with because it's scary to deal with, it's painful to deal with, and it is not straightforward, right? We might think we're solving it, we might think we're addressing it, but we're actually not. The reasons that we're doing it are something completely different, right? But getting to that place where we can truly face it, accept it, move on, let go, all of those things, that is an incredible place to be in. That's an incredible experience, and even if it's hard and the path to it is painful, right? So having this show where it takes place entirely after where a lot of shows that sort of follow a similar story style would end, right? I love it. Yeah, I love it so much.
I do too.
Because
oh my god,
because this is the kind of stuff that I feel like we don't get focus on enough in stories and in just because stories, I feel like at their best they can teach us things about our lives through these fictional characters and settings and places and events and all of that, right?
Yep.
And showing the coping mechanisms, the dealing with it, the journey to heal, right? That's something that I feel is absolutely precious and isn't given enough attention, right? Because we don't necessarily know that we might have stuff like this that we haven't dealt with in a similar way to the kids, right?
Yep.
Before Menma came back, they were all kind of just, going about the regular thing, and they might have, they might have been able to look at things and be like, oh, how did I get here? Something seems not quite right, but they wouldn't necessarily know what it is. And they definitely wouldn't know the way forward to fixing it.
Yeah, and the one character who kind of had the double dose of this was the one that had, in some ways, the ability to see it the earliest. Right. Therefore, Jinta is the one that she appears to, not only because she maybe kind of liked him, but also because of this whole thing with regards to, what happened with his mother as well. So when he's unable to run from it, he's unable to mask it, he's unable to play it off, he's unable to isolate it, like he has to bear the weight of it. Right. And then when Menma comes along, it's this like, oh, okay. So is this something that's going to be primarily to help him? And then it's going to be the friends and everyone kind of coming around to help this person who's ostracized themselves. No, this is something where they all specifically have their own very real, raw response to this that is painful and knotted up and twisted and hidden.
Right. And very, very different.
And very different in that regard, yes. And that's why I think the show is rather good, is that it would be very easy to make a decent enough show just focused on Jinta's struggles and how everyone else basically needs to react to him dealing with that.
That'd still be a really good story.
It'd be a very good story.
A lot of good like lessons and stuff in there. Definitely be, you know, heartfelt and have wonderful emotional moments. Yeah. But I'm totally on board with you because none of them would have been able to do it by themselves. That's the thing. Even Menma showing up, that wouldn't have actually fixed the problem, right? It was Menma showing up as a forcing function to get them all to meet back up again, right? So that they could all go through this together, because the sum is, or the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, right? You know, the idea that even if they can't really do shit about their own problems, I mean, they can, they're the only ones who can solve them, but with the way things have been going, they have been unable to, right? They haven't been able to fix things. They haven't been able to move on. But, you know, by running into each other, by seeing the kinds of things that they're going through, that kind of takes their perspective off themselves for a little bit, then when they do look back on themselves, they're able to actually take stock of how they're doing and what's going on, and maybe, just maybe, find the courage to actually face it.
Right.
Rather than bottling it up.
Yeah. And then in this episode, we get to go in and have them all finally have the cracks in their emotional dams just sunder in glorious fashion.
Yep, being honest with themselves and each
other. That's the important thing. We had the earliest signs of that with Yukiyatsu, in that his was something that was a cry for help in the most sad way that it could be, in that he was trying to make it obvious.
Right. It was ripped into the spotlight, right? Like that was, you know, that was something where, okay, after that point, you know, he can't go back on that. Like, you know, he can't just, you know, pretend that didn't happen like that. Like, you know, it's both a forcing function for himself and the people around him to realize, okay, this is not resolved, you know, and because a lot of them were able to be semi-functioning, you know, like Anohana, she was doing, you know, all right at school. Yukiyatsu, you know, like he was getting the good grades and all that stuff. Tsuruko, same thing, you know, but that
I love so much. Like, I'm now like feeling whole and strong enough to where I can give some good elements to this discussion now. But like, I love so much that they finally told each other off in their different ways here. Yep. Because there are so many relationships in this show that need to have this kind of just messy haymaker coming in of like, why are you like this? And just let it all out.
Yep.
Stagger it. It's not even going to hit that hard, but it's going to mean so much more to each of you to have this happen.
Right.
I loved so much that Naru and Tsuruko actually told each other off in that whole bit there. Tsuruko's been one of my favorite characters of the group in general, because the way that they handled Yukiyatsu was probably one of the most surprisingly well done aspects, I would say, about the characters just in general. And it's easy to see how they would handle the Anaru Jinta situation, because it's a little bit more reliant on specific formulas that have been used a lot in the past with just shows of this nature.
Right, it's more execution than originality. Yeah,
right, but with Tsuruko is a character that would very easily end up extremely unlikable in certain circumstances because of how much she is unwilling to share how she actually feels, and makes other people kind of in some ways feel bad for doing things imperfectly.
Well, and I know a bunch of people that don't like Tsuruko as a character.
I can see. I know why.
And that's one of the reasons why, as far as the letters that they got at the end, my two favorite, hands down, are Anaru's with the "you're so stable," right?
Yes, I was going to bring that up.
And then Tsuruko's with "you're so kind."
So kind.
Because both of those things are things that they definitely didn't believe about themselves, and quite possibly for good reason, right?
Right.
But that's not the person that she saw. That's not the version of them that she saw.
Right.
So
Oh, good. Yeah, I was gonna save that for later, but let's talk about the letters real quick. Just jump around here because I really, really love Tsuruko's letter. It was the first one. It was the first one they showed. Maybe they were setting the tone for all the others as well, but also saying in some ways that, yes, she was the one that she maybe had the least relationship with, so she gets the first letter.
Oh, sure.
And one of the things that is so impactful to someone who fakes niceness constantly, like Tsuruko, for instance, is when someone who has a genuine good nature then calls that
out of them
and says, I love that about you, because then you're forced to reconcile with that aspect, and it's just, it's really powerful.
Right.
And
well, and also I feel like there's that bit of like hope that can come with it too, because even with the most, you know, thin, shallow facade, right? That's still something that you're deciding to put on. And maybe it's for all the wrong reasons, right? But if someone who you would describe as being the true version of that,
right,
says that they see that in you,
yep,
God,
that's just gonna,
especially when you're so internally conflicted about your own facade, right? The idea that then Tsuruko's thinking, maybe I can actually have that be a real thing. Like maybe I actually can be a kind person, right? Maybe I'm not as awful as I've thought, you know?
Yep.
Like is that a thing that could maybe be true?
Yeah. It just kills me. Like I feel that. Like that is a specific thing for me in so many ways, because when I was younger, one of the things that frustrated me so much about making friends particularly was that people only related to me as being nice. So I had to, specifically over the course of like my young teen years, basically rip that apart a little bit for the purpose of people actually being interested in getting to know me. So it created,
real deep connection.
Right. It created this falseness to the niceness, because then I basically only went back to that when it was the thing that the other stuff wasn't working. So there is so much that needs to be like I say just applauded with how they handled Tsuruko's character for being the faux nice person. Because we, with our perfect perspective as the audience, we see right through it.
Yep.
Absolutely. She is the biggest fake of all of them, even more than Yukiyatsu in a lot of ways. Like,
sure.
Like Yukiyatsu's whole thing about being honest and confident in his brash honesty was in some ways a really cool way to show how close they got over those years, because his struggle ended up being her like actual like saving in that regard. The fact that Yukiyatsu was able and willing to go through this first, be so brave to just plunge right through this and stuff, kind of forced her into like addressing her own feelings and stuff.
Yep, because all of a sudden she's seeing Yukiyatsu do that, and it's like,
he's leaving me behind.
Right.
Again.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
What is my life at this point? There's so much I could go into on that, but I just love the fact that they resolved it with her finally talking about why she was so jealous of Anaru in that case.
How much she's not a kind person, actually. Right?
Yep. Oh my God. But then, problems everywhere. Yep. But, okay.
But then
the letters just in general. Let's just go over them real quick.
Well, yeah, so Anaru one. The Anaru one of, I love how steady you are.
Okay.
That's one that I'm not entirely sure how to take that one, right? Because Anaru has shown, even as a veneer, like nothing that communicates being steady, I would say.
No.
Like, not at all, right?
If anything, that's the one that hurts the most because it's the most antithetical to how she actually is.
It's being directed at the place where she feels she's weak,
right?
Right?
Yeah.
But what I love about it is that it's something where Menma noticed that.
Yeah.
Right? That was something that was abundantly clear to her, and that specifically was probably one of her biggest insecurities, I feel like.
Yeah, Menma specifically, yeah.
Because
Anaru, were you meaning Anaru's insecurities or
Anaru's insecurities?
Okay, because I was going to say I think it's actually one of Menma's insecurities as well.
I love that as an idea, and then that's why she sees it.
That's why she sees it.
She sees it in Anaru.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I like that.
But go into it as well.
The other one that I was thinking though is that if we think about Anaru's struggle over the course of this series, right? There's a lot of the more obvious stuff of like, okay, well, yeah, there's everything with her friends, but then there's the stuff with Jinta, right? And when I think about how she feels about Jinta and the pain and the fear and everything that she has, I don't think it's because she's worried that she won't ever be able to be with Jinta. Yes, that's there, right? And that is a strong element. But I think it's more that she's not sure if she can handle knowing that she will never be with Jinta, right? That he will never reciprocate her feelings, right? And that's what worries her, right? And the times when she appreciated Jinta the most, whether in the past or in the present, in the past he was the leader, right? So he was in a lot of ways the one that was steady. Yeah. And then in the present, when he did things like standing up for her in class and things like that, that was showing that he was steady, right? In a time and in a place when she felt like her world was in shambles.
Yep.
You know, then he comes along and he does this.
Right. Yeah.
So the fact that Menma then specifically calls out her as being steady.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like a promise that you're going to be okay. Yep. And I feel like the letters are in some ways almost a beautiful kind of symbol of the idea. Yeah, like kind of, because they've talked about the whole reincarnation thing, and I don't want to go into that as like a legitimate like theory and stuff like that. But Anohana as a show kind of gives that element of where there's the mother's nurturing care in some of the things that Menma will say and do at times that kind of shows the kind of spiritual ethereal nature of what she represents. And the letters are almost like it's gonna be okay, sweetie, like it's gonna be okay, like I've moved on and I believe in you, like there's something unassailable about anything that Menma would put in the letter.
Sure.
So the fact that she chooses something that might not actually be true in terms of the characteristic of a person,
or they might not believe
it exactly. It is basically the wholesomeness of a mother basically just saying, you know, I love you the way you are, kind of thing. Yeah.
I feel like
so good
with the letters and everything, it's it's almost something where, because Menma is gone, right? Both she died and now her ghost is gone. Right? But in a lot of ways, she will always be with them, whether it's in the flower we saw that day or in the letters left, or, you know, any of those things, or just the memories, right? That's something that they'll always have.
Yeah.
So, and that idea, I feel like is so often used as sort of like a cliche of like, you know, they'll always be with you, kind of a thing that it's easy to lose, to forget the meaning of that, and the
emotional impact.
Right, the emotional impact, because these letters, in a lot of ways, probably changed their lives, right?
Yeah.
Not just with the fact that they were finally able to let go, right?
Right.
But they were able to let go, and then given that push, that gentle, you know, like I believe in you, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something to be said for the fact that this episode kept the wound of these characters open and flowing all the way up until the end here.
Yep.
Because even when they're saying goodbye, or we found you, you could definitely see that this was something where all the infection had gone out, but the wound was still, open and raw.
Right.
But there's something to be said for them being able to be in this together. And that was kind of, I would say, my favorite part about the show overall, was how each character kind of came around another to help them in different scenes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the fact that Popo got this at the very end because he was the one that separated himself the most, like, physically, like literally, he went the farthest away. I thought was rather special. But also just that Menma, as who she was and stuff, ended up also being someone that needed them in the final moments as well, in that her wish was something that was, I just wanted to be with you guys, I didn't want this to end and stuff. So it I don't know, it really felt like it nailed all the emotional impact of this being the end for them.
Right.
So the idea of her being with them forever wasn't something that came up in my mind in that respect. But I feel like what you were saying about the like how much it still like landed with them because of the letters, because of the drawn out nature of the goodbye and everything. I want to recommend this show to everyone.
It's so good. Like,
it's really good.
Like
it's goddamn therapeutic.
Yep, straight up. Like, for the characters and for the audience, I feel like it's incredible how well it does it, because. And, with the music, which is amazing, like the way that they just slip the songs in at just the right times and everything. Yep. I love it. And apparently that song, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I found out fairly recently that song was like a very like popular pop song back in like the early 2000s. So, and I'm not entirely sure about this because I just was sort of thinking about this, like, during the discussion and end of the reaction and everything. But the ED is specifically called Secret Base, the 10 Years After version, which could be an allusion to the fact that the show came out in 2011, which would be about 10 years after the original song came out. I don't know if that's exact or anything. I can't remember the exact year that the original song came out. But then also that because what I always figured before was that this is 10 years later, like, that everything happened about 10 years ago, and I don't know if that would make them too young, because 7 or whatever that might be a bit much. But I didn't really care too much to try and figure out what their ages were at the time. They were little kids. It's not super important.
They were little kids that had crushes and feelings and thoughts and but. God, can we try to figure out a way to discuss the entire episode now? Like,
well, okay, so
bit by bit.
So the whole bit at the beginning. So okay, one of the things that with this show, that when I first watched it and the rocket went up, because the rocket isn't her actual wish, right?
Right.
But with the emotional impact of that rocket scene, it was amazing, right? How do you go from that into the final episode and have her wish be resolved and everything without losing the dramatic tension buildup, essentially, that we had from the previous one, right?
Exactly. And that's separate Menma from the group.
You separate Menma from the group, and you have this scene happen at the beginning where they're all talking about, oh, she didn't leave. Why is that? Okay.
We must process that.
We must look inward and, oh, yeah, it doesn't take a lot to see there's a whole lot of stuff that we haven't been properly facing.
Exactly.
For Menma's sake, we have to do this, not just for our sake, because of selfish reasons we want her to move on. Like, and I think that might be one of the reasons why Popo's story hits me so hard, because one, and I can't believe I spoiled you on the confirmation of that from the previous episode, but the part where he actually breaks down, and it's like, and it really gave me the impression that he was being haunted this entire time, not in as literal a way as, as Jinta, for instance, but that he really had been trying to escape from this. And like the voice acting and everything in that moment where we see just how, and I mean this in the fullest sense of the word, desperate he is
right
to have Menma just go.
Yeah.
Right.
And not be stuck in any kind of a limbo state of any kind, because that's on him then.
Right. And
there's a flashpoint aspect to this that I really appreciate. What I mean by that is the idea that they all saw that past event in a different way, but they also literally saw different key things.
Yes.
And that shaped the rest of their lives after that point. Until we get to have some resolution to it. And it's important that they did all see different things as well, just story-wise. I think what it does is it leads to an easy anchor point for the viewer to understand their feelings, because one of the issues with shows like this is you can have really dramatic feelings that the audience doesn't understand. And that is really tricky to then have the audience not just have sympathy, but have empathy for the feelings that they have, so they begin to feel them as well.
Right, rather than just being like, I'm seeing a character cry, so that makes me feel like I should cry, kind of a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a thing of where I like to always preface these types of shows with, if you don't empathize specifically with one of the character's feelings of a certain thing, that's okay. It's on the story's job, the story's burden, not on you to emotionally, connect in that respect.
And the fact that this show does this with 6 characters in 11 episodes. And times their resolutions, their cathartic moments to synchronize, not just with the music, but in space-time within the episode. That is
a feat.
That is a feat that cannot be understated, right? Because
goddamn feat.
Because having just like in the previous thing you were talking about of like, what if this show had just been about Jinta, right? And his struggle, that totally could have worked, right? And having his cathartic moment of letting go and all of that, moving on, that would be a fantastic moment all on its own, right?
This show would have been forgotten about by now, though, if that was the case, I think.
For the most part, probably
9 years ago. No, this show would have been forgotten.
It certainly wouldn't have that specific niche where it does this thing that other shows don't really do, right? Because we get it, and we get the not just the tears, but the happy tears.
Exactly.
With all these characters at the same time while this amazing song plays in the background, and so. Yeah, and that's now why for so many people people were actually telling me in the spoilers channel for Anohana, they were like, Jacob, how can you hear the ED without instantly crying, right?
Crying, yeah.
Because I love the way the music is used in this show to just sync it up with the moments for what the characters are feeling and everything, to help highlight that and bring it out of the audience. It's incredible.
Yeah. God, the speed at which everything just spiraled out of control with them just unleashing their thoughts and feelings regarding this, and no filters anymore at all.
Nope.
I loved that Anaru and Yukiatsu basically comboed Suruko into finally breaking the veil, the brick wall of a facade around her there. Yeah, and we find out that no, it's not that simple.
Yeah, she wasn't jealous of Menma, she was jealous of you.
Yeah, because that's something I'd already consigned. I already conceded that loss. Like, looking back then, I already knew there was no way. But I wanted to, just to the very least, be close enough to him to be able to understand him.
Right.
To be able to get to that. But because maybe, even then, and this is something that's rough as kids, I feel like we don't give kids enough credit for the depths of their feelings. This is part of the thing that is, I would say, a little bit more focused on maybe in the trauma angle, and people are much more understanding in that respect. They're like, you were traumatized before 10 years old. That's obviously something that shapes your whole life, because it does.
Right.
But when someone has something that like crushes their their feelings, but it's not in
Right.
a like obvious trauma way.
Yeah, it doesn't
You
have
kind
some
of,
physical like sign where it's, oh yes, this can definitely be classified as trauma kind of a thing.
right. It comes out in things like what we call just personality. Things where
Sure.
you always wonder, why are people all so freaking unique and different? You know, there's everyone has these different things and stuff. Why is Tsuruko have these things that she's good at and these things that she's not good at? Well, I'll tell you, like, oftentimes a lot of it is because of some kind of really strong, not necessarily traumatic, but just strong emotional experience that they had as a kid. And that just subconsciously aligned them in a direction that would then determine the course of their life.
Yeah.
And we can't trace that kind of stuff perfectly because it's connected to feelings, which are all over the place. So
And that's why these characters needed therapists.
yeah,
because
they needed therapy.
because
Jeez.
like so there was a point when I was talking with my therapist. I'm not going to talk about what it covered basically, but he brought up this idea that for a lot of people, the things that they deal with emotionally, they deal with usually for their whole lives because they don't know how to properly deal with it. So it just
totally.
it becomes that emotional baggage, you know.
Heard that
but
too.
that it also can be traced back to when they were very young, right? That their perspectives on things and how they respond to emotional stimuli later in life is almost wholly shaped by things that even if they might not like, you know, you
consciously remember it, or
well,
even
you might
think
not
about
even
it.
you might not even consciously remember it,
Right.
But and if you were to talk about it to someone, odds are the people that you tell about it would never classify it as trauma, right?
Exactly.
But it has that same kind of effect on you because you're young, right?
Right.
So then, you know, everything else afterwards can stem from something that might have on the surface seemed totally innocuous, but it had this, you know, disastrous consequences on your life, right?
Like I have done this with people on the positive side and on the sides where it wasn't positive, where there was a set of memories. I'm gonna go from just the positive angle because I don't feel like sharing any of the negative ones. But there was a excitement that I had about drawing dinosaurs as a kid, and someone, bless them, helped guide the fact that my imagination stayed strong because I was encouraged and not like laughed at for drawing dinosaurs. There was a point that I just had forgotten about where someone had come up to me and been like, drawing is stupid. And there were like two people that specifically just kind of stood up for me in that instance there. And they were like, dude, what do you mean stupid? Like drawing dinosaurs is the best. The dinosaurs are the coolest thing ever. And just the simplicity of dinosaurs being this thing that was so just like, they're so big and they're so crazy. And we don't know like anything about them, but like we know they're like the bones and things like that. I had the most overactive imagination long into the future, beyond when like a lot of my friends started to just kind of stop imagining things in that way. So when I would talk with them about things that were of the like what ifs and the fantastical worlds and stuff, you know, people would be like, I guess that's, you know, that's okay. But for some reason I was so passionate about it, and I don't know exactly that it was traced back to just drawing dinosaurs, but anyway. Then we get them all just sharing the reasons as to why they all blame themselves specifically for the things that were preceding her death. And you get that classic thing of everyone's different angle where they add extra guilt and shame onto it because not only the fact do they believe that they were entirely in the wrong, but Menma then died, which made all these final big moments
that
with her
much more punctuated.
Exactly. And that's all something that we totally saw coming, but the fact that we then get them all to bring it up in this way, leading to just the emotional catharsis and pain and just experience that is them all being able to process those feelings. And the fact that I just love that Tsuruko actually says that she did get what she wanted. She's like, I eventually got it. I did become the one that understood Yukiatsu. I stayed with him. That was all of her struggle, all of her time. That she's like, I did it.
And
but,
yet,
look where we are again. All it took was this stupid girl to get brought up again, and now the whole thing's, completely ruined again.
Yep.
So yeah, of course she's horrible, but like so is everyone else in that respect. That's the point. That's the point, is that they need to address these emotions and feelings and stuff. And no, they're not really horrible. It's just their response to this has brought up all the self-hatred, negativity, and
them judging themselves by their own worst moments. Because they see their own worst moments up close and personal, because, it's in their own head. Whereas, for the others, they don't do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I really appreciate how the dialogue weaves each of them taking the spotlight, because it is sometimes a little bit canned, just saying a little bit when you need the characters to all give their specific piece and stuff.
Yep, and that's why I brought up the whole thing of the 6 characters.
Yep.
And how crazy that is, because
it's ridiculously hard.
It is. You cannot imagine how tough it is to have a group conversation with 6 characters.
Yep.
And granted, I guess in this situation it's 5 because Menma's not there.
But true. That's a good point. Yeah.
To have a group conversation with this number of characters about things that matter this much to them.
Yeah, to all of them.
Right, to all of them.
Because you usually omit like one or two of them.
You usually omit like 1 or 2 because those people will be in more of the listening thing. And then it character-wise makes sense for them to take a back seat, right? Yep. And then they might just sort of be there observing the conversation or whatever, right? And they are definitely listening to each other here, but they also have things that are going on the inside of them that are that can't be denied, right? That need to have their moment in the spotlight, because otherwise it will tear them apart inside. It's been tearing them apart inside for, ever since Menma died, right? And that's why this needs to happen.
Yeah.
That's why one of my favorite parts with this whole conversation essentially is when at the end they all just break down and are sobbing together.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And it's ugly, it hurts, but they're all doing it, right? Yeah. The filters are off, the defenses are down, and they're all just being raw and vulnerable with each other.
Yeah. God, I really loved that when Popo had his moment to come in there, he says, well, no matter what, it's better than, no matter how you feel, it's better than not doing anything. And then he sees it as something that Menma, would never forgive him. So, yeah, he is haunted by his own, basically, horrors and fears of this whole thing and this place even.
Yeah.
And yet he still ends up going
back
to the base. And then, we see him, like, admitting basically the whole thing of, which was his response was the obvious one in terms of why he did this. But we didn't know what was the instigating factor that brought about
for it.
Why he continued doing this.
Well, and even then, why does he keep coming back to the base? I always figured it was something like, and I even forgot about it until watching this episode again this time, that it was something where he was the one that, because he was sort of the outsider that got brought in, right? He wasn't really as much friends with anybody, and they sort of let him join their group, that it was something where this was all the more precious, right? And that's where a lot of the joy came from that he would put on as a way to block out the pain of what he was not dealing with, right? And I think there's probably a part of that to it, but the idea that him coming back, he would see it as being this thing that he tried to avoid. He wouldn't want to come back, but he always would. He couldn't keep himself away because he had to. Right?
Yep.
That's human heart in conflict with itself. Like, there you go.
But it's his breakdown and his raw emotion that just sends everyone into tears.
Right, it kind of gives them the permission.
Yeah, because Popo has been the emotional core of the group.
Right, he is the last person that would break down into sobs.
Exactly. We would see multiple times throughout the show that he constantly was close to feeling like really painful, sad stuff, and he would, let's positivity, doing all this stuff, and we're like, oh, buddy, and you're gonna pop. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, and then there's also all the times that other people would be in those emotionally, going into that emotional territory, and he would try and be that kind of counterbalance, sort like,
let's go somewhere else,
Right. It very much felt like the whole thing of like, okay, you're going to basically, you know, it's like a teeter-totter, and he's just on the other side, like, all right, yeah, y'all are, you know, bunched up over there on the emotional train,
like pushing down.
And I'm like, I'm gonna keep this from getting too crazy. I'm gonna do everything I can to. Yeah.
Wow. I also wanted to just give a little special shout out to the 2 eyelashes thing as a comedic break in the bit there to basically have something where, because they're all so honest with each other at this point, they have no barriers up, that their responses are entirely genuine. Yukiatsu genuinely just laughs. And Tsuruko kind of brings up like, wait, oh yeah, I thought your eyes looked different. And she does the classic thing of, if you have glasses but you're crying and stuff, is like, hold on,
wait,
everything's all foggy, let me move those out of the way. Oh, I did think they looked a little different.
Like,
and then and Popo says the wholesome thing of, you know, I don't think you need any more hair than that in Naru.
Yeah.
And then Yukiatsu echoes it basically, just stay how you are. And it's just like, gosh, thank you, but stop calling me a Naru. And
then they're like, oh
yeah,
we're using our nicknames again.
God, it's
like,
just
that
is a really cool way to just.
I love that transition.
Yeah,
I love that transition so much because there are a lot of times in stories, you know, in anime and things like that, where you'll have the sad moment or the angry moment or whatever that turns into laughter because you know, whatever, nervous energy, etc. But I don't always buy it, right?
Right.
Especially going from like really heavy stuff to comedic stuff.
Yeah.
That's a transition that you have to handle very carefully. Otherwise, it can be really jarring.
Oh my God.
And you want the comedic thing to be something that really is funny, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time makes sense why it's in there.
Right.
Not like some random joke that someone decides to tell. But so something like Anaru, who's, you know, even in this state, right, where they're all coming here, you know, has the eyelash extensions and everything like that, which is like, okay, granted, she didn't know that they were going to be having this kind of conversation, but I mean, you don't need to have eyelash extensions at night.
Well, it was for the rocket.
Okay, sure.
I think it was probably just a thing of where they take a picture, or, you know, she wants to look good, you know,
because Jinta's there. Yep.
And,
But then, tears and all of this stuff. So, extension gets, you know, moved out of position, and
That is the kind of funny thing that Jinta would just notice awkwardly and break the whole tension of the scene. And it is really good.
Yeah, like that, I would laugh at that. Like, you know, like that's, so.
But I would say one of my favorite wholesome moments this episode that I didn't know how much I needed was Yukiatsu leaning on Jinta.
I know, right?
Because Yukiatsu is, in my opinion, probably the best written of all the characters by a slight margin over a couple of the others, all tied for second. I don't want to know. I don't want to try and figure out who those people are in second. But Yukiatsu's moment of basically coming all the way back around to being like, right, this is this is why you're the leader. So I'm gonna trust you, buddy. I'm gonna be, you know, I've already had my guard down around you for this whole thing here, but no, I'm gonna lift you up. Yeah. I'm gonna make you be the one to do the awesome thing,
right? Because
you are the only one that can do it, because mechanically you are the only one that can see Menma, and we don't know that we're all about to see Menma.
Yep.
I personally believe in you, and
I'm leaning on you.
I'm leaning on you.
Yeah.
The physical visual storytelling stuff is really important just to do here in general. And there's a couple elements of this that are, I would say, rather good. The main one is when he leans on him, his eyes are shut as well, which is also just kind of a thing of where you can see the relief and peace about Yukiatsu doing this. There's no struggle here.
Yep.
This is perfectly natural. If anything, I kind of was almost a little bit bummed that they went so quickly from that into him being suddenly, you know, 6 feet away from him in shot with all the other characters. He's, you know, Tajinta did the anime protagonist fist clench and he's going away.
Right.
But hey, we don't have time, so let's get this going. And, you know, he gets to her and we see her with you know, Jinta's mom, and I like that we got some confirmation on that end. But the idea that Menma was like, so that's what I wanted to do, but I wasn't thinking of bullying you or anything, and I'm not that smart, so I wanted the others to think of ways to make you cry that aren't mean, and it's just all this stuff of where she's like
almost apologizing basically,
and
because weirdly enough, it's almost like she's saying, I kind of blame myself too.
Right? Yeah.
I blame myself that I hurt you all by leaving,
right.
And that in a lot of ways it happened indirectly as a result of something that I was trying to do.
Yeah.
I made you feel this, right? So
like this is the part that I was already just broken to where I was even fully realizing just how raw Menma was being in that point there, and then she sees it as a punishment for keeping it from you, and it's just like no, let's go.
And then he carries her.
And he carries her the whole way there. Mm-hmm. We have
hang on, not yet.
The running bit, and then this show decides to just dick punch us for a second with the whole thing of because she's not talking. We're like, oh, well, it's fine. It's going on.
But then all of a sudden, oh no, Jinta can't see her.
Mm-hmm. But then he can hear her.
Right.
But he can't tell where she is because her voice is just coming from nowhere. And then it's a whole thing of where, oh, we're playing hide and seek? Well, crap, we're all taken back to being kids again. And then she gets to have a little bit of time to write. We get the visual foreshadowing of what she's going to write and where. And then we get the final scene with the letters, and the letters are so freaking good. If anything, I wanted to bring up, if anything, the fact that of all the letters, I feel like the one that has the potential to maybe not hit as strong is Popo's.
Yep.
And that's because it's something that is maybe the least tied to his struggle.
Yeah.
Right. But the idea that she's basically saying, I like your emotions. I like you being exuberant and all over the place, basically being, you brought a lot of light and warmth and happiness and fun to this whole thing there. You don't need to punish yourself anymore for this. And his response to seeing this feels so almost over the top compared to what the words are. And yet, when I thought about it a little bit, I was like, oh God, it is in some ways because of what he struggled with. It's like, this is something that you can do. This is something that you are going to continue to give as a strength. And I think Popo is just the one that's had his emotions pent up maybe the longest, just in general, because he doesn't have an easy key to bring it out, whereas with the other characters, because they have crushes on each other and things like that, there's very specific ways that it can be used to be brought to the surface. But and the other thing that I love about it is that, and maybe I'm drawn into this a little bit too much, but because Popo was kind of the outsider that was brought in according to what we know, I could see it being something where he was also maybe putting on being funny back then as sort of I'm going to make sure that they like me. Right. And then it's no. I do. Everything that you were doing was very much appreciated. Yeah. Yeah. And Jinta, just the fact that, she did love you, dude. She really did. Yep. Jinta's feels like the one where it's the no words are necessary. No words are necessary. Because they already talked about that, right? Yeah, we knew what it was going to be. Yeah, we knew that she loved him, right? And she knew that he loved her, right? She even, said the thing, oh, it's the, you want to marry me kind of love, right? It's the callback, Right. But now I want to know what your thoughts are on this, because I wanted to interpret something about hide and seek, and this is something that's rather this is not dark, but it is rather curious to explore. Okay. And that is that they're playing hide and seek, right? There is an assumed end to hide and seek, that everyone gets found, right? Yeah. The problem is that she's dead. Now, if you don't look in hide and seek,
then the game just goes on forever.
Well, the game just goes on forever, but one of the things that is common in hide and seek is if you can't find them, they just give up and come to you. But this is life. She's not coming to you.
Right.
But one of the things that is important to bring up is that they will, no matter what, come to her.
Okay.
They will all eventually die. And regardless of what their thoughts are on the whole, reincarnation angle, or even just whether they'll see each other again in any way, looking is basically the same as moving towards the conclusion, which is not staying in the past, not staying stuck. It's moving on. So being willing to keep looking, even if you'll never find her, is like saying, I am willing to live, I am willing to go on, even though I might never, ever basically get the emotional resolution to this whole thing with you. I will never see you again. I will never have this moment again. So it feels like Jinta's basically being the leader for them by being like, to hell with it, let's go and find her there. And then the show basically is like, oh, you guys are all willing? Okay, fine.
Then you
guys can see her. You guys get to find her then. You're willing to move?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then for the last little bit, this is just basically the metaphysical, spiritual aspect of the whole universe or what have you, just giving them a nice little, hey, you guys have suffered long enough, here's some closure. You get to see her for a few seconds and say that you found her, and thus, farewell, goodbye.
Yeah.
So I thought that was something that we could explore a little bit.
Well, the one thing that I did think of when you were bringing that up is that also explains why Menma showed up, because they weren't looking.
Exactly.
Because it's not something where, like, we don't necessarily know the exact time in which Menma started showing up to Jinta, because the first time we see it in the show, he's not surprised by it, right? Yeah, it's something that's happened before.
Yep.
But I don't think that was something that was happening, like, it started recently, though, I think, is what the show is trying to communicate.
Yeah.
So there was a long time where, she was just gone. But, in hide and seek, it was something where, they had all kind of given up on looking, right? On trying to solve the issue within themselves. And then that's when she shows up.
Yeah. And then this is the part that I think is just the best twist on the whole wish thing, is that it ultimately does end up being a thing of where, who cares about the things of what you want? I just wanted to be with you all.
Sure, I still do. Yeah.
I still do. Now, what I think is really kind of special about this is something of maybe where she sees this whole thing of like, hey, I get to be a ghost and be here. I don't really know why, but yeah, of course I want to hang out with my friends. I want to be with everyone and stuff like that. But at the moment where she's basically asking them to do the impossible and look for her, to do all this here, she realizes that this is all actually about to end. She flashes back to them as kids, and then she's like, no, I actually still want to be with everyone. It's the whole thing of, wait, no, I'm not ready to go. Now, she says this whole in the third person kind of, cutesy way, but so Menma will get reborn and be together with everyone. So Jinten cried. We've also said goodbye. Yeah. And you found me. So it does feel like she's basically then willing to accept it, even though in that brief bit there,
there was the hesitation.
There was the hesitation, and and I don't know. This is really good.
And okay, but resolution stuff post.
Okay, yeah.
So some of the things that I really love that we get to see here. One, Tsuruko and Yukiatsu are still hanging out and everything. Yep. And, when he makes his little comment, She smiles. She lets herself
has
smile.
a little bit of smirk and sass to it. Yeah.
Yep. The other thing that I absolutely love, and I
know you're gonna bring it up.
I didn't realize it until
I kind of made a note of it.
Well,
Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Popo's trying to get back into school.
Yep.
Like,
this was the one that just like, oh my god,
because
like,
this
is so wholesome.
This is the one that I didn't know I needed. Right. Because yeah, Popo's working in construction. Good for you, man.
He skipped out on high school.
Yeah.
He skipped out of school to go travel and just do his whole life and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And now it's something where it's I don't have to be just distracting myself and living in the present because I can't bear to think about the past.
Right.
You know,
I can build a
or the
future.
future. Right. I can actually build a future. Right.
Right.
So that
isn't it so good? Like, once I saw that with the books and everything, like in the helmet and everything, and I was just like, oh my god, because it's basically. I just wanted to bring up one of the things I think is rather genius about this show, is that Jintan's development is not one that is used for all the other characters to react to it. The development of one character bleeds out into the other character's thing. And the fact that Jintan is the leader of the group is a nice shorthand way of explaining why when he starts making moves, the others respond in a way that for some of them, like Yukiatsu, bugs them because it's like, why is he so always far ahead of me, and I'm
better at you
I'm always
at everything,
chasing after him.
But this is still happening. Yep.
And then where do we see parallels of that way? Tsuruko and Yukiatsu. Oh, the one who is like, I was always your hype man and stuff like that. Now look at him doing the same thing basically that Jintan did, which is rededicating himself back to school while doing all this extra work and jobs and stuff. They're literally following in the area of the struggle that he broke through because of not just Menma, but the whole group of them starting to come around together. So all the things that the individuals go through end up bleeding over to at least one other person to help them with their struggle.
Right.
Anaru had that same thing happen where she ended up relating a bit to Jintan in that she realized, oh my god, I am literally one bad day away from doing the same kind of things that he would do.
Going into that downward spiral.
Exactly.
Yep.
So there's just so many ways that they wove the characters' developments and arcs together. So good.
And Naru stood up for Jintan in front of her friends. You know, she was like when her friends came by, you know, it was very much a thing of like, no, he's cool. You know,
and she kind of laughs at it because of the silliness of the response. You know,
right. Of I'll hit him with my bag because he's handing you back a handkerchief or something.
Yeah. Which I think that's what that was. Yeah,
I believe so. I think
could be a cute letter, like a Valentine's or something like that.
No, I think that's a handkerchief.
That's a handkerchief.
I think so.
Yeah, the bunnies on the corners.
I think there was a point earlier in the show where Anaru was crying or something like that and used that handkerchief or something like that. Like it wasn't the first time that we've seen it, but I'm not sure when it was. But like the idea that their lives haven't completely and totally changed as a result of this happening. A lot of it goes the same way. Popo's still working at the construction job. Yukiatsu and Tsuruko are still, going to school and doing all that stuff. Anaru still has her awful friends at school, right? Yeah. But it's not about the circumstances changing, it's about their response to the circumstances that's important. Because they have changed. Yeah. So
and then we get to see basically that they are all hanging out at the place together in a secret base.
Yep.
And that she wrote the Super Peace Busters are friends forever.
Yeah.
And that's just a good show, y'all. Thank you so much for pushing this show to happen, even though I needed to do the final push to make it happen as a bro slot on Tuesdays. And
this show is like a perfect example in my mind of the characters end up realizing the difference between what they want and what they need, right?
Oh,
because very few of these characters get what they actually really wanted, but they do get what they needed, right? And that kind of helps shape their wants and stuff too. But the idea that it wasn't that they had to change. It was that they had to better understand themselves, right? Like, because I feel like a lot of the times in stories, it will be the, this person was in the wrong, this person was in the right, or something like that. And then the one person gets vindication and the other person must completely change who they are, right? Yep. No, it's about understanding who you are.
Exactly.
Right? Because that was the whole problem. That was what was causing the whole problem, is that they weren't properly acknowledging and facing that. So now they are, and it's great.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Guys, this show is really good. But guess what's happening next week? Something that's a bit of a twist.
Indeed. So better prepare for trouble.
Yeah, make
it double.
Guys, we're now doing double bros slots on Tuesdays.
Yep.
Where each of us take turns. Not take turns,
No more taking turns anymore.
No.
Yep.
Jacob and I will each have our own dedicated choose a show slot. So we're just calling them bros slots. So Jacob will choose his own show and I will choose mine. And these will be ones that are, shows that aren't necessarily doing too well on the polls. So they need that extra help.
And not necessarily one core.
And not necessarily one core anymore, because we're no longer wanting to shut the other person out of choosing a reaction for any given time. So we've already decided on what our shows will be. And oh boy, are we excited to tell you about them, because they're both ones that we've each been pushing to put in polls for a while.
Quite a bit.
And now we get to have them happen.
So do you want to go through yours
should
first?
Go first.
I'll go first. All right. Yeah. So, we're going to be reacting to Hibike Euphonium, including the Liz and the Bluebird movie. That is happening. So, that's going to be something that we'll be starting up next week.
Yeah. And then I will be starting... You know what it's going to be. Run with the Wind reactions, y'all.
Yep.
I'll finally get to share with you all why running is a transcendent experience. It's something that is core to the nature of all human beings and so, so magnificent when you finally fall in love with it. It is something else. But, Run with the Wind and Hibike Euphonium starting next week. And, if you want to watch those right now, though.
The first episode of each one.
Go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there. And any level of support gets you access to our Discord, where you can chat with us about Anohana. You can chat with us about the end to that and how it felt for you. You can chat with us about anime in general, stories, what have you. And you can also check out our Twitch channel.
Indeed. We stream Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. The Twitch info is in the description down below. But basically, Monday's podcast, Tuesday is One Piece dramatic manga readings.
Yes.
Wednesdays and Wednesdays and Fridays, Caleb does gaming.
I'm playing Hades right now.
Indeed. And then on Thursdays, I'm doing gaming, which right now, Persona 4 Golden.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.